How did you get started as a photographer?
Basically, my vision came into form back in 1969 when I was about 9 years old, is when I started to develop an appreciation for photography. And it's through this book right here, Black and White America, that really opened me up to photography as a young child. My father had a signed copy of this book on our coffee table in the projects of Brooklyn. And as a young child, I would just go through these images here, and I was just blown away behind the gravity of each shot, you know, documenting the civil rights movement, the war in Vietnam, and poverty. And I remember looking at this book like constantly, to the point where I tore it apart because I was looking at it like every day. I was just compelled behind these images. So a few years later, my mother, she had an installment camera all the time because she used to give a lot of parties and go out. So she had this camera around the house, and I would see it, you know, just sitting there. So she gave me, I asked permission to utilize it, and she let me take it up to my school. And I started to record a lot of my friends back in junior high school and high school. And a lot of the images here in this particular book, A Time Before Crack, represent those very first images that I've captured of my friends back in junior high school and high school with that 110 camera. And what I learned about photography at that point was it was like magic to me. You know, it gave me a voice and a sense of purpose. You know, prior to having it, I had a little stuttering problem, and I was a little unsure of myself. But it seems like when I got that little 110 installment camera, and I looked through that viewfinder, I saw a whole new world, and it enabled me to say beautiful things to people. And I saw it as magic, and my life has not been the same since. You know, it's once again, it's given me a sense of purpose and identity. Gordon Parks did a book called A Choice of Weapons, and he discusses, to me, that book is dealing with his life coming up as a photographer and how he used the camera as a weapon to enlighten people. When I came up, there was a lot of weapons on the table. There was a lot of guns, there was knives, and I decided that the best weapon to me to help educate and inspire people would be the camera. So when I was at the age of 15 years old, I got deep into my photography, and I would carry my camera everywhere I went, and I would just approach people and just tell them how special they were. So it just wasn't about taking pictures, but it was about making people feel good and saying, can I take a picture of you? And well, why you want my picture for? And that was what I always wanted to hear, that, because I could sit back and say, because you are beautiful, because you are special. And it just made me feel good to say things to make people feel good. So that's basically my beginnings.
How did you feel going to the publishing center?
I was feeling kind of good because I knew what I had meant something. I really did. I strongly felt that these images had importance. And prior to me going to my publisher, I did work with The Source magazine and with Trace magazine. And what was unique about The Source magazine back in 1998 when I did the 100th issue, they gave me about, I believe it was about maybe 17 pages. And the magazine sold out all over Brooklyn. It sold out. Everybody wanted it because, you know, we were so accustomed to seeing images of artists, rappers, and entertainers, but to see real people, it blew people away. People that actually were here during the birth of hip-hop, it blew people away, and the magazine sold out. So when I went to the publisher, Powerhouse, back in 2000, they had already heard about me, and they actually told me they were looking for me. So I showed them some work, and they told me your book will be out next year. And sure enough, it came out the following year. I was blown away, because everything I read, that's not how it goes. You have to put a proposal together. You know, you have to, it's a lot of work into getting a book deal. And I just went against the grain, and I just felt, I went with my feelings, you know, and I strongly felt that I had something that was important. I had to go against the grain, and they didn't deny it. And back in the days, it went on to be a bestseller. It actually sold out. The first edition sold out in 2 months, and that was 4,000. The second edition sold out in 2 weeks. So they knew it was a major book.
How did graffiti affect your work back then?
Wow, this is very interesting. I started off as a graffiti artist. My whole crew was basically graffiti artists. And I dabbled into it in the beginning, but I wasn't really good at it. And I had a name, Comanche. You know what I mean? And as a graffiti artist, you don't get names like that. You know what I mean? You get names with basically two letters. Like most of my partners were AG, KO, La Boy, but Comanche was just long. And I remember writing it. It took so long to write. It was like, it gotta be a better way. You know what I mean? So, you know, that was my humble beginnings. Like I said, all of my friends were graffiti artists at that time, and it would definitely played a role in my development and appreciation for art, because that was basically my first contact with art, was graffiti back then. And I just regret not photographing the trains back then, because I thought they would be around forever. So I would see this great graffiti and it would just bypass me, and then one day it was all gone. But graffiti today and my work goes basically hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And what's crazy about graffiti with my book, I have people looking at my book and saying, man, you have my friend in your book. And I'm saying, really? He said, yeah, you got him. He's from the Bronx. I said, wait a minute, I don't remember taking that guy's picture. And they go to me and say, he's right there. I say, wait a minute, you gotta be kidding me? That's your friend? And that's his cousin. You know what I mean? And it makes me feel good that I've touched people like that the photography is beyond an image, but you know, it's just hand in hand. Like this shot here, you know, they say, yeah, you got my brother's there. I said, well, your brother is two girls. They said, that's my brother right in the background. So I feel really good that my work enabled me to capture certain elements of graffiti. Whereas a lot of times we see images of the outside of the train, but very few people shot the inside of the train, and that's my relationship with it. So we go hand in hand, and I feel good that I preserved the history to that degree, and it's a beautiful thing. A lot of my good friends are graffiti artists, you know, who've encouraged me and who've taken me over to Europe. You know, a good friend of mine is Sharp, Aaron Goodstone. He helped create the Wild Style logo. And we did our show together in Italy, you know, and in France. So we have a relationship. You know, the graffiti artists are like my cousins. We one and the same in trying to take this urban art to the next level.